Right, it's BSC Expo 2019, day 2, Saturday morning. It's a nice bright day out there. And I'm joined by the helicopter girls, Kat and Emma. Thanks for coming along.
Pleasure.
Really intrigued. I've been, over the past year or two, been looking at what you've been doing. And drone cinematography has gone through the roof, hasn't it, in its usage in drama, commercials, features. And you seem to have been in it since day one, almost.
Yeah, we have. We started sort of playing around with the technology in something like 2011 or so, and or maybe even earlier. We kind of started toying with helicopters on GoPros on helicopters, remote control helicopters. I gave Kat a T-Rex 500, which is it's like a little helicopter about this size that she had to build for herself, and then she sort of got addicted, and then the drone thing happened, the sort of multi-rotor thing happened, and we were using them for the projects that we were working on ourselves, because we worked in documentaries before, and then sort of realised that actually Kat's always been a kind of ahead of technology slightly, and just realised this was going to be something that was actually going to happen in a big way, and be sort of super useful, just giving a totally different perspective, and that was that. We kind of ended up buying we imported into the UK one of the manufacturer that we sort of use the most is Free Fly Systems in America. And they, a lot of people know them because they have they work with the Movi gimbals on the ground. So that's become a really kind of big thing, gimbals at the same time. And they actually started out as an aircraft manufacturer.
And aerial filming as well.
Yeah,
and they used to fly on jobs and.
So we imported the very first CineStar 8 into the UK in 2011 or 12. And that was the kind of big thing, and they were trying to carry the red, and we, for us it was like, oh, can we try and lift a 5D at the time? So it kind of went from there.
And what do you use now? Is it an Arri Mini?
Yeah, we fly typically an Alexa Mini package. I mean, we can fly. On the stand we've got an Alexa Mini with a Master Prime on it, 35mm Master Prime, and Kat's kind of quite clever at making sure that the gimbal is the lightest it can possibly be, because every gram counts, doesn't it?
It does.
So,
and I mean it's fascinating because we've seen aerial cinematography by drone evolve over less than a decade. I mean, have you found different ways to use it, different ways to shoot, different ways to make those shots integral to the story rather than being...
I think the biggest thing that's happened is in the beginning we would just top and tail scenes, or we'd do an opener, we'd do a lovely massive GB or a big wide, lovely scenic. And as people started to realise that they could actually come closer, you could operate them in that space, a little bit closer to an actor or closer to a building, we've started now to be asked to use them in the scene, internally in the scene, to add to that or to add to an action sequence. So you may only do one shot, but you're now right in there as part of the action with the drone, rather than just the big wide as the car drives off into the distance type thing. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed, but there are still a lot of people out there who haven't used drones and don't necessarily know the language of or what the drone can do, and it might still not be their go-to tool. They might still go for a crane or for something else. So I think the drones are still so early enough that people are still exploring the language and exploring what they can do. And I think also a lot of people were wary of them because in the early days, luckily not us, but there were crashes and they were unreliable. The tech didn't work. The gimbals might not have been as smooth. So people might have them. They wouldn't be able to get them to take off, and and I think it's taken a little bit of a while just for people to trust that they are a safe and reliable tool on set that can just be there, and it can maybe get you out of a bind where you thought you might do a shot with something and actually there's not enough room, but the drone can do it instead. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed. And also there are lots of younger DOPs who maybe have them, who are doing experimental things with them and pushing the boundaries visually. So that obviously all feeds through as well. So,
When someone comes to you, do they have a predefined idea of what they want, or do they come to you and say, "We need to tell this story"?
Normally it's all storyboarded on the projects that we work with, but what might happen is obviously the person, everybody who's worked everything out may not necessarily know how the drone's going to react in that environment. So you might actually be able to get that shot in that way, in that environment, because there's a tree there and they didn't realise when they drew, when they were figuring how you'd move around the space. So I think, most of the times we do something, but there might be a slightly better way to do it, because we know how the drone moves and how it works, and also what its limitations are, and also what it's good at. So I think then that's when it becomes a discussion where you look or you see the previous or something, you're like, okay, but we could also do this as well, and it might get you a little bit more of what you want. But on the whole, for most of the projects, people have an idea of how they want it to fit into their scene, and also schedules are tight. So there's this, normally, we have a very specific sort of time slot of when we're going to do something, or time frame, because you might have to clear a lot of other people out of the set, or make way for the drone, so to speak, to do its thing. So it's normally quite structured.
Sometimes too, I was talking to someone this morning about a spiral staircase, a shot that they're trying to do with a spiral staircase, which the production were talking to somebody about using a wire cam, but actually they were realising that there's no way in this space they're going to get a wire cam, so maybe a drone with a great pilot and a reliable aircraft, a great crew, you would be able to get that shot. So sometimes we are also the only tool that can do it.
Yeah. And you're in the UK, also Morocco, and
well, we move around. We have 2 units, and we work all over the place. So we did a series called Jack Ryan in Morocco, and then after that we realised that it's quite difficult to get aircraft it's difficult to get drones into Morocco, just because of the kind of rules and regulations there. And so we thought, well, actually, if we can leave our aircraft and batteries in situ, then we're able to go and service those clients, because there's quite a big film industry out there. Kat was in Colombia for 3 months with the second series of Jack Ryan this year, and we actually end up sort of all over the world. So.
The permissions, it's if you have time, it's possible to get permissions anywhere. So, but it just does take time. Normally, it takes about 3 months. So, it's and the biggest things are the batteries, shipping them around. But again, if you have batteries already somewhere and you can leave them, then obviously it makes it better for the production. So yeah.
And so if you're on a production, let's say Jack Ryan, where throughout those episodes they know they're going to be needing those drone shots, are you fairly concentrated when you do them, or do you have to be available
for them? They took on both ones, they took us out for blocks. So for Morocco we were there for 5 weeks, and then the way that they worked Jack Ryan was, it was three teams, so 3 director and DOP teams with an AD, and then 2 units. So the 3 director teams, DOP teams would move around the 2 units, and we would then move from A unit to B unit, or blue and red they called them. So we'd move from unit to unit. So you basically were on standby for everybody, and we'd often know the night before if they'd have a rough idea of what they wanted to do, but the schedule moved so quickly because it's a big production of 400 people. So it's, it was. With Jack Ryan in Colombia, we then went for 3 months, so we went for the whole time they were there. But that's quite unusual. Normally, but that was because they were in different locations, actors' availability, so it was just easier to have us there, and if they needed us, they needed us, and if they didn't, then we were on standby. So, but mostly people do it in smaller blocks. We don't often go away for 3 months.
Technical advances, what are the biggest things that impact you? I guess battery life and battery weight.
Impedes?
No, helped? You know, what are the
What
biggest
helps?
leaps forward?
Gimbal stability, having a reliable gimbal. So the Mobi series have been amazing, because before then we had to build them ourselves, and you had to use encoders and all sorts of things, and you'd set them all up and then they just go wrong. So the reliability of the kit is the biggest thing that's changed in the last couple of years, because in the UK we have an upper weight limit of 20 kilos. The most people operate under that, so most of the heavy lift aircraft can roughly all carry the same, roughly all weigh the same, you know, so, and they all fly the same amount of time. So it's then just, you know, about reliability of machine and transportability and things like that.
The advances are, you know, sort of if, in terms of technology moving forwards and where it's going is, you know, it's the sort of super heavy lift weight category, so that takes you up a different category. It means that the whole ANO then applies, the Air Navigation Order applies to us. So we have to comply with different rules. Effectively we can still do the same stuff, but it's all about carrying bigger cameras. So the large format cameras, film cameras. It's that is the sort of, those are the things that are the holy grail for cinema.
But the Alexa Mini was an amazing product for the drones, because being able to carry, you know, an ARRI camera that was that small, that's been sort of specifically designed to go on a gimbal, was just that you know, had a massive impact. Because up until that point the only choice was Red and maybe a Sony FS7. So, but apart from that we couldn't fit anything else on. So yeah, I'd say the fact that manufacturers are now specifically looking at gimbals and designing products to go on the gimbals, which means then we can fly them, that I think has been a big advance over the last couple of years, because before we weren't really being used enough that we would ever be thought about in a design process for somebody, but now it is. So,
and I guess red tape is one of the biggest issues as well. You know, in multiple countries and multiple regulations.
Well, certainly. I mean, if you look at the UK, we have an OSC, which is an operational safety case from the CAA, which allows us as a company to operate closer to people and buildings and things that are outside of our control, so roads or whatever, than we would with a standard permission. So your standard permission means you've got to be 50 metres away from the general public, whereas we can get between 10 and 15 metres from the general public, which is a massive advantage. So we shoot a lot in congested areas. We've become, you know, kind of real specialists at working in congested areas. We do a lot of stuff in central London. We're the only company that's actually managed to close down Leicester Square and fly above.
Yeah, on purpose. Not
fly above building height in Westminster, and you really have to kind of cultivate those relationships and stuff, and work with the police and the Film London and various kind of film offices and things, just to enable us to be able to do that. So we do that a lot with productions, from very early stages in production, because those things can take some time, lots of planning, and then with other countries. Our kind of UK permissions count for a lot, so we can use those and then convert them in most countries. And just sometimes you have to do get the pilot to do an exam or something locally in order to enable you. But yeah, it's time more than anything. Most things are possible. It's just time.
And like you say, cultivating the right relationships with authorities wherever.
Yeah.
So what's next in the diary? What productions have you got coming up that you can talk about?
I don't think we can talk about any of them.
That's always a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to say
Where
anything.
Are you going next?
Lots of good stuff, though, is on the horizon. There's quite a bit of stuff in Europe, potentially something else in Morocco, which we haven't signed on the dotted line about yet. But yeah, I suppose what I should say is we've done something exciting. Last year we partnered with an aerial DP called John Marzano, who has the most extraordinary kind of back credit list. He's worked on everything from
Black Hawk
Down,
Black Panther he did the aerials for.
Various Bonds, all sorts of stuff. So together with him last year, we did some great projects. We worked on Artemis Fowl, Disney thing. We worked on Maleficent 2, Fast and Furious.
All is True.
All is True. Yeah, we did some really good stuff in
Downton
Downton Abbey. So we together we have some quite exciting stuff in the pipeline. And then we do.
And then I'd like to go back to Colombia or do some other stuff in South America. So I think that would be, now we have our permissions there. I mean, I think because Mexico and Venezuela obviously aren't that safe anymore. So a lot of production is going to Colombia. And it's got a lot of really exciting young filmmakers who are desperate for that industry to come. So I think in the next couple of years or maybe decade, there'll be, Colombia will become more of a destination for people. A little bit like Morocco, because when we did Jack Ryan, Morocco doubled for Turkey, for Syria, for Liberia. It was like 7 different countries, and they managed to find all the locations there. It's very close to Europe, so it's and it's safe. And the same with Colombia. Most of the production were from LA, and they were flying backwards and forwards all the time. I think the flights, like 3-4 hours or something, or 5 hours. It's really quick. So yeah, it would be good to do something more there. We were meant to go to the Amazon and we didn't make it, so next time I'd like to make it into the Amazon.
On the list.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you're going to be incredibly busy for the foreseeable future.
It seems like it's going to be a good year, I think. Everyone's sort of saying it's going to be a good couple of years for the British film industry too, I think.
That's good. And it's fantastic, a sort of homegrown success story that, started from the grassroots and just happened by the sounds.
Worked quite hard.
Very hard.
It's been quite stressful.
Yeah. Running a drone company is very involved and not easy, and it's
probably puts a lot of people off.
It's a joy that we are now in this position where our equipment is fantastic. We're working on the projects that we really wanted to work on. We've got a great crew. We sort of feel like we're kind of coming into a really happy place.
But that also frees up creativity, doesn't it? The burden of concern over if it will last.
Yes.
It's more, we can do this, we can do
yes,
that.
Exactly.
We can push the envelope now rather than
worrying about whether or not it's going to take off or whether it's going to be stable, which was always my worry. But so now you don't have to worry about that anymore. That's a relief.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thanks for spending time to talk to us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope today is busy for you again. I'm sure it will be. There's a lot of people coming through into the show. So thanks for spending time, and we'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you.